Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Odd and Untold. This is episode 11. And this week I'm doing another personal story. There's going to be a couple of personal stories, personal in my personal life and a paranormal story. So I'm going to do a ghost story, and I'm going to kind of catch you up a little bit on what's been going on with my day and why I don't have any guests this week. Um, so first of all, I'm drinking, this is a sour ale, glittered sour ale from Dewclaw Brewing. It's called Unicorn Farts. Very good. I'm going to show you the can if I can get it to show up there. And my wife had bought this up in Massachusetts for my niece's birthday. We just celebrated her fourth birthday this past Saturday, though she turned 4 earlier in August, but this was when we could do her birthday. And she loves unicorns. She loves Barbie. She loves mermaids. So we got some unicorn beer. We drank some at her party. So Charlotte, that's for you. Happy birthday. And you're too young to listen, but maybe one day you'll see this and appreciate it. So that's what I'm drinking today. I don't really see the glitter in there. It's fine. Wanted to do a few shout outs just because I have had a really rough couple of weeks. So I do have a really good support system. My parents, Barbara and Gary, my son, Jake, my wife, Laura. I also want to thank Josh Diaz, Scott Perry, Dustin Lamana, Dan Nicotera. Great guys. They keep checking in on me. My best buddy, John, he was on the podcast a few weeks ago. And, he's been checking in on me. And so, just to have friends at work, Paula, Robert, Adelina, just, so many people, Diana. I'm trying to remember everybody here. I'm trying not to give names away too much, but I do want to thank people. I wanted to give a shout out to my friend Stephanie McKeon. She's been watching the podcast, watching on YouTube, commenting. So, Steph, thank you. Known you since we were. So yeah, just wanted to thank everybody for listening, for watching. Kerry Carlson from Sassy Squatchy Girl. She's always liking our posts, and I'm wearing a Moxie shirt today that my wife got me because she's from New England, and I know you're up in Massachusetts hunting Bigfoot on a daily basis. So have some Moxie. It's good stuff. I'm sure you know about it. Okay, so now that the shout outs are done, Dax Woods Wanderer. They're awesome. Check them out on Instagram. So just a little personal stuff. Today I had I woke up yesterday and I was up early, probably about 9 a.m. It was Sunday. Got up, went to the bathroom, flushed my toilet, got back into bed, and the tank was just continuously filling. So I knew something was wrong. Went to check the float, checked the handle, checked everything. I know a little bit about fixing toilets and couldn't figure out the problem. It was a little bit beyond my expertise. So call my landlord, who's a sweetheart, and Marianne, you're great. And I'm sorry I'm calling you so much lately. I had an electrical issue last week with some of my outlets. So my bedroom has one outlet that works. So her brother came by to try to fix that. He's got to come back. So anyway, the toilet was not running properly. So her son is a plumber. So he came over today and fixed the gasket. There was something wrong with the float, and it wasn't telling the toilet to stop filling up, essentially. So he fixes it. He leaves. Great. I'm starting to think about dinner. A little while later, I have to go to the bathroom. So I go in. I go to the bathroom, drinking too much. And to the left of my toilet is my shower. And all of a sudden, my shower curtain starts moving like crazy. And for a split second, I thought the shower curtain was falling. I thought the shower rod had fallen down, even though it's like screwed into the wall. And then I realized that a hose that refills the tank behind the toilet had popped off. The gasket on that had broken. And it's, spraying all over my bathroom, spraying water all over the floor. So I had to get down. I'm getting soaking wet. Had to turn off the main water to the toilet. Had to call them again. Of course, Marianne is making dinner. She thought everything was taken care of today. I had to call her son, Joe. to get him back. He had to run to the plumbing supply store, get more parts. Finally came back and fixed the toilet. But it's just been one of those weeks where everything seems to be going wrong. So I'm glad that's finally done. This is now 8 o'clock on Monday. I've had a rough couple of weeks. I'm not going to get into why. It's not important. The important thing is just that I have friends who have been there, people I love, people I care about, who have been there. Everybody I mentioned earlier, my family, my wife, my friends, my camping buddies, everybody, my coworkers, everybody's been great. It's, I'm just trying to push through. And I really, at one point today, was like, I'm not doing a podcast for Tuesday. I can't. I had reached out to some people who have expressed interest in being on the podcast, and I couldn't really follow up with them today. I was just not in a good headspace. So I was like, let me just do another personal story this week. And maybe after today, my outlets will work and my toilets will work and my kitchen sink won't catch on fire and everything will just start flowing a little bit more smoothly from now on, is what I hope. So I just figured I'd tell a little ghost story tonight, just something. I don't even know why it's been on my mind, but it's one of those stories, one of these things that happened to me. I don't know if it was a ghost, but it was a really interesting story to me. Not just because it happened to me, but just because it's not something I've really heard too often. So I wanted to get into that a little bit today. So just bear with me. I'm going to pour myself a little bit more beer and we'll get to it. Okay, so the story I want to tell, this happened back in probably 2005, maybe 2006. I was living in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. This is the apartment that I had spoken about with my friend John. And things would happen there from time to time. I'm not going to say it was like a super active apartment. It's one of those things where like over the span of 15, 20 years, like a lot of things happened, but it wasn't like a daily occurrence. It wasn't something like you see in the movies. It was usually very subtle, footsteps, voices, just a general feeling of unsettled emotion. Like you just felt like you were being watched. You felt like you weren't wanted. And not all the time, just sometimes. So this was back probably in like 2005, maybe 2006. I was living with my first wife, Janine, and back at the time, there were no real DVRs. We didn't have a cable box in our bedroom, so I had like a VCR hooked up to a TV, and I had taped episodes of The Simpsons, and I would watch them and fall asleep to that. I'm kind of one of those people who needs like TV to sleep. So I was watching them, and probably about 3:30 in the morning, the tape had finished and rewound and ejected, and that sound probably woke me up. And I was like, let me get up and I'll pop the tape back in and start it over. I'll go pee while I'm up. So that's what I did. So I got up, went to the bathroom, and came back. And when I came back into the room, I said, you know what? I've been watching this one tape for like the past 2 or 3 nights. Let me switch to another tape. So I went, I got another tape. So here it is. It's 3:30 in the morning, but I'm wide awake. I've gone to the bathroom. I've gotten myself a glass of water, and now I'm back, kind of like rummaging quietly through my tapes. And sip of beer. I find another tape. I pop it in, and it's not rewound. So I press rewind. So I'm just kind of standing there waiting for the VCR to rewind. It was a wall mounted sort of TV and VCR combo sort of thing. And as I'm standing there, and we're on a second floor apartment, and I hear what sounds like a person fall down the stairs, just ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And I'm standing, so I can kind of feel the floor shake. I can hear the pictures on the wall kind of vibrate a little bit. And at this point, there was a guest room in the front of our apartment. As I mentioned in my episode with John, the apartment was kind of separated. So it was 3 bedrooms, but the front 2 bedrooms were sort of outside the main apartment. So you had to go into like a main hallway to get to them. It was old building. And so at this point in time, my brother Jeff was living on Staten Island, but all his friends were in Brooklyn. So a lot of times he would stay in the guest room, and my father would come in on Friday nights and visit my uncle, who lived in Bay Ridge as well. And Honestly, I kind of thought maybe it was him coming in because I do believe it was a Friday night, and I think he would see my Uncle Neil on Fridays. And again, this is one of those things where I wasn't thinking paranormal at all at first. I heard somebody fall down the stairs, and I said, "Oh crap!" Um, it was either Jeff or my father. So I run out, and the lights are out. So I'm like, maybe one of them came in, they were drinking too much, or they were like, I don't want to put the light on, and they missed a step and they fell down the stairs. So I run out into the hall, I throw the light on, and I'm looking down the stairs, and all's quiet. There's nothing there. So I run to the front guest room. I want to see if anyone's in there, if anybody has been in there. The beds are made. There's no bags in there. There's no overnight bags, nothing. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. The TV was off. The lights were out. Nobody had been in there. But I had clearly heard what sounded like somebody falling down the stairs. Like it started at the top and went down, and it sounded like a human being just falling down a flight of stairs, if you can imagine that. So I go down a flight of stairs, and now I'm checking to see if anyone's down there. There's nobody there. The front door is locked. There was two doors. There was a foyer, so there was a front door. There was an inside door. And then I was thinking, well, maybe one of my grandparents tried to come up and see me or get me, even though they would always ring the doorbell if they wanted to talk to me. And they were sound asleep as far as I could tell. All the lights were out in their apartment. Their doors were closed. So I ran upstairs. I said, let me wake up my wife and tell her, because maybe something in the basement broke or exploded. I mean, we had boilers down there and heaters, and I was like, maybe a pipe burst. Something happened to shake the house. So that was my second guess, because obviously nobody had come in. There wasn't any of my family members. It wasn't a break-in. There was no sign of entry. There was no sign of anybody in the house. And where my bedroom was to the door to my apartment to get to the stairs, I mean, it would take me probably 3 seconds to get there. It's not a quick, it's not a long walk. I could get there very quickly. So I knew that if anybody did fall down the stairs, there was no way that by the time I got to the top landing, they could have been gone. So I go upstairs, I wake up my wife. I said, hey, look, something may have broken or burst in the basement. I'm going to go down and check. Help me find a flashlight. So we grab a flashlight. I run down to the basement. Everything seems fine. I'm checking the hot water heater, the furnace, everything seemed fine. And I'm looking at all the pipes. I'm looking under the sink in the basement, and I'm saying something happened. Something happened in the house, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I'm walking around and I'm saying, okay, son of a gun, something happened. Somebody fell down these stairs. It was in the house, enough to shake it where I could feel it in my feet. I could hear the pictures on the wall vibrating, and couldn't figure it out. So I said, you know what? Let me go to bed, and maybe in the morning there'll be news. I mean, we do get earthquakes in New York from time to time, little ones, but even my dad has woken up. When I was a kid, he woke up a few times, and the chandelier in the dining room was swinging, and on the news later that day, oh, we had like a minor little earthquake here in New York City, and you could feel them, and so I was really thinking it was that. But at the time, there was no cell phones. The internet was available, but the only computer in the house was down in the basement, and it was turned off. And I was way too tired. It was at this point like 4 a.m, and I was like, I'm not booting up the computer now. And again, it's 2005, so the computers would take half an hour to boot up, and then you'd have to log into AOL to get on the internet. So I said, I'll check in the morning. So I went back to sleep. Didn't think much more of it. Woke up in the morning, went downstairs to talk to my grandfather. He was always up early, ex-Navy man, served on the Enterprise. So he was always up at 6 o'clock on the dot. So I went downstairs pretty much as soon as I woke up and asked him if he had heard anything last night. He said, no, nothing. So I told him, and he says, well, let's go down to the basement and look. So, he was very meticulous in life and with everything. So he and I went down into the basement. We checked everything. We checked every pipe, every gasket. Nothing was wrong. We checked in his apartment. I knew it wasn't in my apartment. As I said, it sounded like it was on the stairs, but we couldn't find anything. So went to the internet, looked at the news stories. Nothing about an earthquake in New York. Went to the National Geological Survey, and all those things that sort of track earthquakes. Couldn't find anything. And I checked for days. days and days and days. And, when are they going to report that there was this earthquake? Because something happened, something rattled my apartment, rattled my building, my house so bad that I could feel it in my feet, and never found any earthquakes online. So chalked it off to just it had to be an earthquake. Maybe they didn't register it. Maybe they're just not updating the database. And just didn't never really thought more about it. It was an interesting story, and it was one of those stories I would tell whenever we would tell ghost stories. Friends, family, whatever. I'd bring it up and just say, "Yeah, like here's this weird thing that happened to me. It sounded like somebody fell down a flight of stairs," and never figured out what it was. It didn't feel like an earthquake. It didn't sound like an earthquake. It didn't sound like something blowing up, but my skeptical mind, my rational mind was just trying to figure out, like, okay, is my house going to blow up? Is there somebody injured in my house? I'm not thinking paranormal. And this is long before, a couple of years before I joined a paranormal investigations group. So it wasn't even something that was on my mind. I was really more concerned that a family member got hurt, or that something in the house burst or blew up and like we were in trouble. And so I forgot about it for many years. And again, I would tell this story at gatherings or, around the campfire, and just, hey, anything weird ever happened to you? And this is one of the stories I would tell. And then one year, I believe it was at my college graduation party, which was many, many years after I should have graduated college, because I didn't focus on college the first time. So this is, years later. We were at my parents' house, and we had, a little graduation party for me because I finally got my degree. And the hours were waning. So like my grandparents had left, my aunts and uncles had left. So it was really just like me and my parents and my now wife, Laura, and probably some other people in our paranormal group. And I was telling this story to my father, and he found it really interesting because he said, when I was a kid, we weren't even living there yet. We were living around the corner on Bay Ridge Avenue. And my great grandmother lived in my apartment, the apartment that I was living in on 68th Street, where this happened. And he was telling me that back when I was little, at one point, she, I guess, was moving around at night, probably in the middle of the night, probably around 3 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. And she tried to get down the stairs and she fell. And she was, somewhat larger woman, Norwegian, hefty stock, and she fell down the stairs and bump, 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 bump down to the bottom of the stairs. And my grandfather woke my grandfather up. He had to come out and he found her. And they had to take her to the hospital. I think she dislocated her hip or broke her hip, and she had to go into the hospital. And I just, that really stuck to me because it seemed like almost like a residual sound, a residual haunting, that now you have, my great grandmother, who lived in the apartment that I was residing in many, many years ago, fell down those stairs, and she was an adult human being, adult woman, and she fell down the stairs. And I can only imagine what that would have sounded like in the middle of the night, and how it would have maybe, shaken the house. It's an old house, it's all wood beams connected. And for her to fall down a full flight of stairs, and my grandfather running out and finding her and saying, "Oh my God, we got to get you to the hospital," like, very sort of traumatic for a middle of the night sort of thing. And I always wondered if that was something residual, if that was just, and it sounds weird because, if people are going to haunt, actively, if it's going to be more of an active haunting where they're going to try to speak to you or communicate with you, I don't think my great grandmother would throw herself down the stairs again. That just seems like a weird thing to do. So it definitely seems like residual, like almost like something, the earth or the magnetic field, like recorded her falling down the stairs and played it back at a certain point. And I was there to hear it and witness it. So it was a very weird thing. And I still don't know what to make of it. Again, the skeptic in me says it was an earthquake and I just wasn't looking on the right sites, or maybe they uploaded it like the day after I stopped looking. I mean, I was checking for like a week or two afterwards. So maybe they uploaded that data like right after I stopped and just kind of forgot about this. It could have been something in the house next door. It could have been somebody falling. Again, I think we would have heard about that if one of our neighbors fell, because that was not just falling down like one or two stairs. That was a whole flight of stairs. It sounded like somebody fell down, and very strange to me, very, very weird. And again, for anybody who knows me, I never say anything is definitely paranormal. I always err on the side of caution and say it probably wasn't paranormal. This was probably a minor little earthquake, um, something else rumbling underground or in the house that we just never caught. But when my father told me that story, and it just, when he said she fell down those stairs, I was like, that's exactly what it sounded like. It sounded like an adult person falling down a flight of stairs at 3 a.m. Very scary. Again, I wasn't thinking paranormal at first. I just was hoping that my family members were okay, and hoping that the house wasn't going to blow up from a gas leak or anything like that. So there's my story. Just one of many stories I have at that place. But it was, and again, I don't know why it's been on my mind lately, but it's something that has just been kind of bouncing around my head. Like, this was an interesting story. Just that correlation between what I heard versus what actually happened years ago that I never even known about. I didn't know that that had happened. My father had to tell me that, she fell down those stairs in the middle of the night. And so very strange to me. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. Again, I don't think this was a ghost. I don't think this was my dead great grandmother. If it was paranormal, it was residual. I don't think it was paranormal. I think there's another explanation out there that I'm just not thinking of or just couldn't find at the time. So I'd love to hear you guys' feedback on that. Next week, I do hope to have some guests. I hope I have a better week this week. I hope my toilet continues to work, especially because I'm drinking a lot of this beer. And we'll be back next week. Leave your comments below. Tell me what you think about this story. And please like, subscribe. It really helps the channel. I appreciate everybody who's listening. The audience is growing slowly but surely, and I appreciate all of you. So again, thank you. Have a good week. See you next week.